when you're looking at a technology like an Uber or some sort of GPS tracking or any kind of technology that offers you visibility into what's happening in any kind of a process, especially in the movement of goods, whether it's your supper coming by Uber Eats or whether it's your container coming from Asia, the technology has existed a long time ago to put a GPS in every container and have that just flowing across the water, and you'd know at any given time where your container is. But why hasn't that happened, right? And I think part of that is that there's definitely an attributable cost to that, whether it's GPS on the phone of the truck driver who's driving your product from one place to another, or whether it's the cost of putting a mobile GPS device in a container that, when it gets picked up at port of origin, now you can actually see it transiting across the Atlantic or the Pacific or whatever. Right. Those technologies have existed, but there just wasn't the desire and financial backing in those areas of the supply chain to really run with that. And I think the change now with container rates being 5 to 10 times what they were, that will find some sort of normality in the future. However, there's more money on the table now.
Sure.
But that also comes with a greater responsibility to provide service. And I think the service that everyone is looking for is what you mentioned before, the visibility, that technology that can actually show you more data and more information. And now I think we're going to be able to start seeing tracking data. We're going to be able to start seeing information that is not reliant on an individual inputting that data into something. Because in the past, you'd have, your goods are being made in the factory. But if the person doesn't tell you that they received the subcomponents they needed to do the production run, or they received the packaging to do the final packaging of those products, you didn't know where it was at. It was in that black box
Sure.
of 45 days production. And you didn't know at day 30 if all the product was there ready to go, they were working on it, or they were still waiting on half of it, they haven't even started. And then, they're actually going to start on day 41 and it'll be ready for loading on day 45, right?
Right.
So I think if we are able to eliminate the human input in that chain, the more we're able to do that and just tie technology directly to the data that we're getting back, we're going to get more and more accurate data. And we're all of a sudden going to start seeing, okay, this production here, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And then when you go further along the chain, okay, this container is literally in the port. I see it right now on the GPS.
Right.
I can see that it just left the Philippines. I can see that it is now down, halfway across the Pacific. I can see it landed at port in LA. Now it's on a truck. I can see that the truck is actually in Nevada. And that technology, although I don't think that's around the corner, I think it's close.
And depending how granular you go as well. So if they're halfway through the batch of producing this item that you're looking for, and you said, what, I have a need right now. Can you get that half that you've produced right now and get it on a boat? It'll just improve, there's that opportunity to improve the supply chain process as well. Where you can minimize the time delays. You don't have to wait for the full batch to be done. If you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to run out earlier, but it's in production right now and they have half of it done. Right. Can we throw it on an earlier container and get it,
Well, what that gives you is it gives you the ability to make a decision in real time, as opposed to now. We have these, once something is said to be done, you have no visibility to that until it's confirmed done.
Right.
And that is really valuable in a situation where you're dealing with multiple potential factors of concern.
Sure.
With that kind of transparency, and once you actually see what's truly happening, the conversations and the relationships and partnerships that you're building, not just between, the end user, the consumer, the retailer, the supplier, the product developer, and the factory, all of them, all the way down back to, the person who's engineering your product. If you're able to have conversations based on real-time data across that whole supply chain, your conversations with your partners become a lot less focused on, hey, I need this now. Where is this? It becomes more focused on, I see you're having a challenge here. How can we work to fix that? Is there something with what we're asking you to do that could be enhanced or improved, or what, I see it's taking a really long time for you to get some of these subcomponents. What's the problem there? Are we doing something wrong? Do we need to build extra inventory? That's
Sure, I agree wholeheartedly, because right now, because of that, we'll call it the black hole, if you will, you only know when the product is done, right? And you have to make decisions based on when the product is done, completed. So what does that mean? So if your retailer needs it yesterday, well, you don't have a whole lot of options. Are you going to get it on a plane and spend that money on air freight to get it here as quickly as possible? And or, right, if you had that visibility earlier in the chain,
Exactly.
well, you know what? Air freight doesn't become the only option, right? A boat now becomes an option, because you can say, hey, you've got 2,000 of these pieces ready. I want them, ship them on a boat, on next available boat. And
instead of waiting to ship 10,000 units, maybe you ship 2, and then next week 2, and then next week 2, and then next week 2, and maybe you air freight the last 2. But at least you've got those goods flowing, and by the time the air freight comes in, the first container will be closer. You start to manage that. But if you don't have visibility, then there's no way you can make those decisions.
And your options at that point are very limited.
Right.